Welcome back, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, we hope you had an insightful, engaging, and thought-provoking discussion just now. Next, we'll go into the next session where the rapporteurs from each breakout room share their key discussion points. First up is Dr. Josephine Chan from room 1.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think the breakout room, room 1, there was like a very active discussion among the discussants as well as the audience. So what was shared is for the impact of PBL on teachers. The first one is what comes across very strongly is that PBL is a new experience. And this new experience is not only just for teachers, but also for the students. And and it has brought back, new zest in teaching, because as teachers, whenever we do classroom teaching, it might get a little bit boring, but with a new pedagogy such as place-based learning, teachers, they shared that they become more excited in the teaching process. And because of their excitement, the students also become excited. And PBL projects also need a detailed planning because in PBL projects, there are a lot of things that you need to consider, and you have got to plan out properly. And because we are dealing with external people, like from the community or maybe the experts that we are bringing in, that's why it needs a detailed planning. And learning becomes more student-centered. So what was shared is that it becomes more student-centered because now the students are the ones who sort of like take charge, of their learning. And through PBL, because it's student-centered, the knowledge that they gain from the project, they are able to maximize the knowledge learned from real-world experiences. And it's not only just through reading from the textbooks. And as a result of that, that's why deep learning takes place. And deep learning is not as from the word deep learning. So it's not only superficial from the textbook, but it's connecting what they learn from theory to practice. So what was shared by the teachers is that this is something important and impactful, of PBL. Also, PBL training is very practical and well supported. It's practical, why? Because it gives ideas that can be implemented. Okay, it is not just like giving ideas that is maybe sounds good on paper, but when you try to implement it, you can't. So what was shared is that the PBL training is very practical and well supported, because step by step, the teachers are guided along the way, and they are also given opportunities to ask questions, and improve their projects. And last of all is that PBL is able to connect the classroom with the real world. Okay, so everyone, not everyone, all the discussants agreed on this last point, and that would be the impact. So the next slide, please. So in terms of the challenges and strategies in implementing PBL in schools, based on the teachers, the challenges would be very time consuming, because in PBL, it involves a lot of processes. And the strategies given is that one thing is maybe for the teachers and even the school administrators, there is a need to change the mindset. Okay, that you are going to use, a different new pedagogy. And as such, the changing of mindset is important. And integration of PBL into the school project, into the school curriculum, this would be a challenge. However, some strategies given is that, maybe if the PBL processes could be simplified, it might be easier to incorporate it into the school curriculum, as well as maybe PBL could be considered, maybe we can consider integrating PBL into non-exam subjects. which uses different assessments instead of having to take exams. So PBL could be suitable for non-exam subjects, or it could even be considered as a co-curricular subject. Okay, from the school administrator's point of view, we were lucky to have a school administrator to also share. What she mentioned was that PBL project definitely needs to be supported by the school administrator and involve teachers who are interested in exploring new pedagogies, okay? And obviously, there is a need to recognize teachers who are involved in PBL trainings or even in PBL projects, because this would be important. Okay, and Encik Hashim, I think a representative from the ministry, also gave his point of view, whereby PBL projects are good and it needs to be showcased more. Okay, which means that maybe more platforms are needed to promote new and creative pedagogies. Okay, so that's all I have to share with regards to what was being discussed from Breakout Room 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jo. I would now like to welcome Kong Yifen from Room 2 to share her points.
Hi, I'm Yifen. Really happy to be here today. So in Breakout Room 2, we shared about the impact of place-based learning being, for teachers, it helps with the learning of the students. So in terms of skills, confidence, and also values. And then in another aspect, like teachers get to collaborate with other teachers as well. And then we also, some teachers also talk about the incorporation of PBD, which is the Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah, to be able to use place-based learning to assess students' learning in the classroom, which integrate with the current curriculum itself. In terms of community, teachers talk about how community is the classroom, and both teachers and students are able to learn from the communities and getting communities involved to join hand in hand in education. So not limiting education within the school, but also getting communities and NGOs and teachers involved in students' education. Next up, in terms of challenges and strategies, we only had teachers, so these are all from the teachers' point of view. So place-based learning is challenging for students. Some of our teachers shared, but they also shared that by engaging communities, real resources, first level, the authentic resources, like getting people in, it really helps students to ask questions and be open-minded in different kinds of knowledge and information. So that actually, even though it's challenging, it's helpful as well. Secondly, one teacher actually recommended that the starting point could be, like teachers finding out what you are interested in. So for one of our teachers, she said that, arts is what he's interested in. And from there, looking for topics that can be incorporated or communities to engage in PBL. So starting from what the teachers are interested in. An audience asked about whether the community are, how do schools and teachers approach communities, and the suggestion was the comment was community is memang open, is very open to receiving schools and projects, as long as teachers don't be malu or shy to ask, and the idea is getting teachers out and meeting people in the community instead of waiting for community to come in and inviting them in. We go out and talk to them and engage with them. And another point was being shared was the long-term engagement between the teachers and communities and NGOs in terms of building relationship with each other and working together. So it's not only a one-time project, but a more longer-term engagement that helps in terms of teachers learning and also students learning. And the last point was, if one of the teacher mentioned that, sometimes parents are not confident that their children are like, can they join this project and contribute? And it's also the teacher's role to kind of persuade and convince the parents to give the children a try. And then the feedback was, after the program, the parents actually seen some improvement in terms of skills and values, and that helped in students learning. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Yifen. I would now like to call Abel to share his points from Room 3.
Okay, all right, thank you. There are a few impacts are divided into 3 different sections. So the first that the teachers have mentioned that team spirit and also the task division among themselves is really very important, it's crucial, and that's something that they felt has impacted them, as well as collaboration and communication among teachers in school. And why is that so? Because they have felt the teachers have been concentrating a lot on their own respective and individual tasks. So their routine work. So this has really have impacted even the routine and so how the collaboration and communication works among the teachers in school. The other point would be the opportunity to increase the teacher's soft skill. I'm not so sure if you can see on the slide if it's bold because I bold them. The increase in the teacher's soft skills. So it's not only the students learn from that, the students felt that they have learned a lot in terms of soft skills when it comes to communication, in terms of how can they define the questions that they want to ask for the interview questions, even a term that's been used by SMK Abdullah Munshi, which is the sequential tentative, where it's a skill that they can know what is the next step they need to do. And another very interesting point has been mentioned that the teachers have learned as well as they have utilized different creative tools. And one of the examples given was the post-it notes. And moving on to the next slide, the other impact that the teachers have learned from PBL is how can they implement this into a classroom setting. So this is something that they find it really interesting. They can bring this into a classroom setting for the students to learn as well as the teachers, and they can apply this into different subjects which they find that is relevant in the school teaching. Another is also inculcating the learning culture in students prior to the fieldwork experience. So teachers find that it's very important because students, we do not want to spoon feed them, of course, but giving them this learning culture, having done all the exercises before they go into fieldwork is really helpful. And the next point is gaining knowledge in terms of learning how to conduct a PBL. And the teachers, they also felt that there's a need for them to enhance the knowledge gain so that they can transmit better and transmit more of their learning to the students. And one of the another point is that the reflection sessions that have been done throughout the process of the PBL, it has helped the teachers to think further how they can improve in terms of teaching, improve in terms of designing, improve how they can teach and convey the proper message over to the students. And to the next slide, we can see that it also provides better understanding about an issue, about a community, for example, through interview. So teachers also learn a lot from there. And of course, very interesting point, and it's a very well-known point throughout this whole session today is it has a very real-world experience that we have really experienced it even as a teacher through this PBL method. And another very interesting point is mentioned that the teachers realize that, hey, there are a lot of cultural assets nearby my school, which I actually do not know. So this is something, not only the learning process of doing PBL into subjects or into the school setting, but I have a lot of cultural assets beside me, around me that I did not realize, and the teachers have learned from there. And this is something really great, and the teachers really learned it. And the other final point for the impact of PBL on teachers is the learning environment. It provides communication as well as learning from the community. So it's not only learning by themselves as a teacher, learning together with the students or in the school setting, but they have learned a lot and really gained a lot from the community as well. So moving on to the next slide, I will touch on the challenges, and then the one in bold are the challenges, and I will move on as well as to the strategies to the particular challenges to buy. So the first is, I'm very sure time constraint has been mentioned. Time commitment is really a thing because PBL requires a lot. And one of the strategies or suggestions provided by the teachers is perhaps they can open for teachers to decide whether they want to participate or not. And also, this may have to be taken up to a further level of discussion of how can this be implemented. The second would be on uncertain on how to guide students to understand PBL. So one of the strategies is they find resources, the teacher will find resources to help the students to enhance themselves, or even to support the teachers themselves with training, give them exposures, or they will seek sponsors that they can help and conduct these different trainings for the teachers themselves. And there are still parents who find it like, should I send my student, to learn this, whether it is important or not? So one of the suggestions was the teachers, they affirm, the school, they affirm that, hey, you don't have to worry, PBL, it is for the future development as well as learning of the students, because it's something very experiential, something is applied that we can really learn in daily life. And the next fourth challenge is the academic and also the examination pressure. One of the thought process throughout the whole discussion was if the school can cultivate learning, so this will help students to in terms of their learning development as well as the desire to study. And in the next slide, to keep up with the pace of time, so students, they do not know what is PBL, or like how can the students know in a simple manner, how can we attract students to be involved in PBL projects. So this is also one of the challenges and the biggest concern that teachers felt in terms of implementing PBL in schools. So one of the suggestions mentioned was they have a taklimat to provide an overview to inform the student, hey, these are the different benefits that you can get by learning and going through the process of PBL in their school. So one of the creative ways or one of the creative tools used was using games to interact with students for better understanding. And the next challenge is how to implement PBL besides in our co-care activities. As you can see there, they have no idea yet, not execution how to work on that. But the teachers did mention that they already have learned about PBL. What's important is they can also train other teachers as well in terms of learning PBL. And the final 2 points is to implement PBL through co-care activities have been mentioned. However, they will think of taking up to another level instead of just staying at being at co-care activities, as well as expanding their network outside or nearby the school community. And that's something really crucial and important for the teachers that they find as strategies to implement PBL in their school. And with that, thank you, and I hand the time over to Rancia.
Thank you all for sharing the key points. Before we move on, I would like to apologize to everyone because we will be having to extend another 15 minutes. So I hope you can stay with us until the end. And that's it. Moving further, next up is the virtual recognition for the participating teachers and schools. The aim of this recognition is to recognize the teachers' efforts in expanding their pedagogical tools and approach beyond a classroom setting. So we'll start off with the certificate of participation in training as part of capacity building program for teachers from Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Abdullah Munshi. Teachers Azizah binti Syed Abu Bakar, Clarina Ann Anthony, Hazri bin Abdullah, Muhammad Hazrul bin Suhaimi, Nur Hamizah binti Ibrahim, Nur Atikah binti Ismail, Nur Fatina Kamili binti Muhammad Nur, Nur Nadilah binti Zakaria, and Sakinah binti Hasan Maidin. Next up is the teachers from Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Berapit, Ang Bisin, Chin Chin Sun, Farm Suk Leng, Hor Xiao Eng, Kang Gai Lai, Lim Xiao Im, Tai Poh Ki, and Tam Chui Woon. And finally, the teachers from Penang Chinese Girls Private High School, Ang Chin Ru, Chen Mei Jun, Chuan Tie Sim, Chung Xiao Jung, Desmond Chin, Goh Shi Ting, Ho Wah Chong, Kelvin Liu, Kuei Yi Han, Lau Wai Mun, Leong Xiao Kui, Liu Yi, Li Yin Chun, Lin Chai Xia, Lin Chin Xin, Luah Chin Eng, Ui Pei Yu, Tan Chiu Lien, Tan Kai Wen, Tan Se Hun, Tan Wei Yi, Tan Xin Yi, Tan Yi Xin, Ti Xia Luan, Teo Chiu Chi, and Wong Yi Wei. Thank you semua. Next up is the Certificate of Accomplishment for successfully planning, designing, and implementing a place-based learning. This certificate is awarded to 4 teachers from Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Berapit with their project on traditional trade paper effigy, and 4 teachers from Penang Chinese Girls Private High School with their project titled The Rice on Plate. Next up is the Certificate of Commendation for the school's tireless effort in organizing and implementing place-based learning project. Joining us for this session to support the teachers are Ms. Liao Yinmi, Principal of Penang Chinese Girls Private High School, Ms. Iliana Ismail, Principal at SMK Abdullah Munshi, and Ms. Eng Choi Har, Senior Assistant for Curriculum Affairs from Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Berapit. Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Berapit's journey started this year with their project with a group of selected students, which had the opportunity to explore the craft of paper effigy, a historical and traditional trade based in Kampung Baru Berapit, and all about its cultural significance to its community. Next up is Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Abdullah Munshi's journey started in 2018 with their project focusing on the lifetime works of the late Tan Sri P. Ramlees, traditional Malay houses in Kampung Dodo in 2019, and this year focusing on cultural assets in Kampung Dodo, as well as the effect of pandemic on school community. Next up is the Penang Chinese Girls Private High School's journey in place-based learning. They started their journey in 2018 with their project on places of worship in Georgetown, 2019 with the Cooking Sauce project, and discovering the function of rice in 2020 and the value of chain rice in 2021. Congratulations to all schools and teachers on your well-deserved recognition. We hope with this recognition, it inspires more schools and teachers, as well as to help promote cultural heritage education, connecting classroom and community.
Congrats, cikgu. Syabas. Banyak masa.
Before we end, I would like to invite Dr. Molly Lee for a closing remark. Dr. Molly Lee is a retired academic who was formerly the Program Specialist for Higher Education and Coordinator of Asia Pacific Program of Education, Innovation for Development of UNESCO Bangkok. Her professional expertise is in higher education, teacher education, ICT in education, and education for sustainable development. She's also the trainer and facilitator from the PBL Capacity Program, Building Program for Teachers. Dr. Molly? Okay. Dr. Molly, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody again. Yes, nice to meet you virtually. I've been given the honor to make some closing remarks. So here goes. Now, in one way or another, we are all teachers, right? And as teachers, we always have these 2 key questions. One is what to teach. Second, how to teach, right? Now, for you teachers who are in school, it's pretty straightforward. What to teach are the subjects given to you, the school subjects, okay? But what we have to crack our head is how to teach and how to teach effectively. In talking about what to teach, the term that we always use is content, right? Now, the case study that we show you just now from the 3 schools, the content are actually cultural heritage, dealing with traditional threads like paper effigy, tombstone, and rice. Because arts at work is always on arts and culture. So you may want to ask yourself, how is that applicable or relevant to me as a teacher in a school? We'll come back to this question again. But the other aspect, how to teach, is actually methodology, teaching methodology, or a bigger term is pedagogical approach. Now, what we have offered you is what we call PBL. Now, this is tricky because the P can stand for project, problem, or place. What we have been emphasizing is place outside the school, the community. But the P can also stand for project, meaning a project that lasts more than one lesson, 40 minutes. It can be 2 lessons, it can be 2 days, it can be 1 week, depending on how long. It's the length, of that project, depending on how complicated that project is. And when it comes to problem, it's all kinds of problems. It can be technical problems, scientific problems, mathematical problems, or even social problems like food security or how to sustain these traditional traits. These are social problems, right? But underlying all this in our process, in using this teaching methodology, what we want to emphasize is learning soft skills, 21st century skills. For those of you who are familiar, it's the 4C. It's so very important. We cannot teach the skills through facts, through memorizing. The students have to internalize these skills by experiencing and going through the process. So, my takeaway, how do I say it? I want you to take away from this forum one key point, and that is how to mainstream this concept or this teaching methodology called PBL. Can be project, can be place, can be problem. How to mainstream it, how to apply it in our daily practices, in our daily work, teaching our subject, teaching all the students. It doesn't have to be non-exam class. It doesn't have to be 16-year-old. It can be even kindergarten, primary school, all grades. This method can be used if we understand how it works. Now, a lot of you bring up the issue of time constraint, but I think Cikgu Aziza make it very, from Abdullah Munshi, right? Make it very clear. We can incorporate it into our mainstream, our daily practices, daily teaching by starting small. It can be just 1 teacher, 2 teachers, a topic in your subject, something small, only students in your class. Then you don't need to spend so much time coordinating and managing, So, and start small, and once you get the hang of it, before you move big. So what ArtsEd have done as an outside agent coming into your school is a full-blown project, PBL project, with all the elements in it, so that those of you who have gone through the training can experience it and learn various aspects of it. There are some of you in the audience who says, can PBL be applied in my school? Yes, of course, PBL can be applied in every school. And somebody in the audience make this very valid point. Now, many of the exam, especially public exam, are already abolished. And we are moving through school-based assessment, what you call PBD, right? PBD. So with this, we have more leeway to experiment new teaching methods. And so that, bottom line, not just getting students to memorize facts, getting good grades, and who cannot think for themselves. And that is the key problem in our school system. We must get them to think creatively, need to communicate either orally or written, collaborate, working in team, and thinking critically. Very challenging task, but I'm sure the fact that you are here today means that you are interested in learning new ways of doing things. So I wish all of you good luck in your new approach. Some of you have already been trained, but some of you, this idea is new to you, but that is the first baby step. Yes. So thank you everyone for taking time to spend with us on this Saturday morning. And thank you our ASET team for doing a wonderful job in seeing the project through and organize this very, very fruitful and insightful forum. I hope you all have benefit from it. So have a good weekend, take good care and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Molly, for
you.
summarizing our discussion today and for the words of encouragement. So on behalf of ArtSet, I would like to thank each one from the ArtSet team involved with the PBL teacher training from the beginning. Janet Pillay, Molly Lee, Tan Lei Cheng, Chen Yok Pin, Adeline Chan, Fu Wei Meng, Josephine Chua, Harris Lok, Kong Yifen, Ui Wen Wen, Nurul Shahira Jamaluddin, myself, Wan Atika, Abel Benjamin Lim, and Go Chun Yen, as well as our funders, Yayasan Hasanah and Penang Education Council for your continued support. Next up is, if you're interested in signing up or receiving updates from us, please follow us on our social media accounts. And if you're interested in signing up or know more about our program, especially place-based learning, drop us an email. Next slide, please. You can drop us an email at info@artset.my or myself, ratzia.artset@gmail.com. For those of you who did not register for this event, please fill up the form. The link will be shared in the chat room so that we could share today's recording and slides or notes with you.
Hi, can I make a correction? Just now is Josephine Chan, it's not Josephine Chua. Just want to.
Oh my God.
It's okay, yeah.
I would like to apologize, Dr. Josephine Chan, and to everyone who is listening. So moving on, as we end today's event, I would like to thank you all for joining. Your presence today shows a strong commitment to work towards a sustainable education. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the panelists and speakers for sharing their experience with us. Take care, and we hope to see you in person next time. Thank you.